Welcome to episode number 2 of Coach and Coffee. I hope you have your coffee. This is my favorite mug, so you're probably going to see this a lot. Got it from a race back in February at Viking Dash Trail Run, which was shockingly fun. Very, very fun event. Whenever races come back to life, check out Viking Dash. They got some cool events. I'm not working with them in any way, shape, or form. I just really liked the event. Get your cup of coffee. Today we're going to talk about some pre-race things and what you should be doing on race morning and race day, pre-race, race morning, unless you're racing later in the day, and what you should be doing to perform better. First things first, you need to have gotten a good night's sleep. And that should be true for multiple days in advance of the race. It should be true all of the time if possible. But the night before the race, make sure you sleep well so when you wake up in the morning you feel good. If you wake up feeling groggy and tired, you're already at a disadvantage. Second thing, if you are commuting to the race, so if you have a drive of any real length, 30 minutes to 4 or 5 hours, I know some people do that. I think I've done 3.5 in the morning, maybe 4 for a race. Anyway, if you're doing a long drive to a race and you have to wake up early, one thing that you can try doing that I found very beneficial while driving to the race, think about the race, but think about the steps of the race that you're going to take. If you've looked at the course map, which if you're trying to be competitive, you should have looked at it just to figure out where things are and maybe develop some strategies if you do any of that. Think about where the things you're going to be doing in the race, try and envision doing them, but then also breathe. So when I'm doing those longer drives coming to a race, I normally get pretty anxious before a race, and by anxious I mean excited, but also a little nervous. So I like to just focus on breathing. I'll count in breaths and out breaths, so 3 or 4 seconds in, 3 or 4 seconds out, and I'll try and just sustain that for 30 minutes at a time, sometimes even more. But even if you can only do it for 10 minutes at a time, even 5 minutes at a time, just thinking about your breathing and controlling your breathing will be extremely beneficial to you. First of all, it just clears your mind, gets you more focused, and it helps to take away some stress, some anxiety, some excitement, some of the nerves. Feeling excited is good. You should be excited to race. If you're not, maybe do something else. But the problem with being excited or nervous is, generally speaking, and I can pretty much say always, it's going to increase your heart rate. And if you're starting a race with a high heart rate, that's not great, especially if it's been elevated for a significant amount of time, up to a few hours beforehand. Not ideal. You want your heart rate low, be calm ahead of time, and then when the race starts, obviously your heart rate's going to skyrocket since you're running. But leading up to it, you want it to stay as low as you can so that when coming into the race, it's ready to go. You're not stressed, you're not anxious, you're calm and ready. Make sure you drink enough fluids. Depends on how long your race is. If you're doing a longer race, maybe you need a little bit more. You should not just water bomb yourself. Water bombing is what I like to call it. The day before, where you just drink tons and tons of water. All you're going to do there is have to pee all the time. So you should be staying hydrated all the time in general, but just make sure you hydrated properly normally before a race. So when people are traveling, a lot of times they forget to hydrate. They forget to drink the normal amount of water that they would drink, or to maybe drink a little extra or get some electrolytes or whatever in ahead of time. So just make sure you do, especially when you're traveling, when you're not on a normal routine. The most important thing here, one of the most important things, when you're at the start line, if you are an elite athlete and you're racing competitively, an age group athlete and you're racing competitively, or you're in the open wave and you're just trying to get the best possible time, the biggest mistake that I have made in my past, and I think almost every athlete ever has made at competitions, is starting the race too quickly. So I'll give you an example. I think it was 2 years ago. I was at a Savage race in Maryland. I was feeling pretty good before the race, and when the race started, I was in the pro wave. We started running, and I tried to keep up with who I knew was the top athlete at the race. I honestly don't remember who it was. It doesn't really matter, but I tried to keep up with them. So what happened was, about a mile into the race, my body just was done. It was too fast a pace for me to sustain over the course of a 6-ish mile race. I think that one was a little over 6, it was one of their longer Savage races at Maryland. So I think it was like 6.2 or something, 6.2. But my body was just shot. I had gone too hard, too fast, and your body, if it can't sustain that pace, it can't sustain the pace. There's nothing you can do to make it sustain a pace that it's incapable of sustaining. If you've not been able to do it in training, you're not going to magically be able to do it on race day. So I went out too hard, and it ended up, I was staying in the top few people for that first mile, but the first mile doesn't matter because there's 5 more miles after that, and if you're not in the top at the end, you weren't actually in the top. So I blew up, and my average pace was way slower than normal after that, and I think I finished like 20th or something. I think that was the worst race I ever had, a Savage race. Maybe ever, actually, as far as doing that. But that taught me a very valuable lesson. Ooh, my dog saw a cat. Taught me a very valuable lesson, and that is, don't start too fast. Now, where this gets tricky is if you're a competitive athlete and you need to stay ahead of everyone who's going out too fast, because if you get stuck behind people at obstacles, it can really slow you down, or if you get stuck behind them on single track lanes and things like that, it can really slow you down. So there are certain times where strategy comes into play, where if you have a lot of athletes who are going out too fast and you know they're going out too fast, you kind of have to go out at their speed, but then what I normally do is I go out fast enough to get ahead of them, and then I start slowing down before they start slowing down. So they'll start to catch me a little bit, but then they'll drop off soon after that because they can't sustain those paces. But do not start too fast. It will result in a very bad finishing time for you in comparison to if you kept the same average pace consistently through a race that you are actually capable of keeping. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So hydrate, sleep, focus on what's coming, the race that's ahead. Make sure you're breathing plenty, focusing on breathing and relaxing. Oh, warm up. Spend at least 10 minutes warming up. Dynamic exercises, short jogs, high knees, butt kicks, lateral leg swings, normal leg swings, some dynamic adductor stretches, things like that. Get warmed up before the race. Your body will thank you for it. You will perform significantly better. Even if you don't feel like you will, you will. Physiologically, it's a reality that having warmed up beforehand will result in better performance during. So make sure you warm up, and then don't go out too fast. Strategize, plan it as best you can, but your overall time and performance will be significantly better if you don't burn yourself out in the first mile of a 5-mile race, or even a sprint where it's only 3 miles. If you have questions on any race strategies, we'd love to answer questions from the knowledge we have and the experience we have. So shoot us an email at info@triofitlife.com. You can visit our website, triofitnessocr.com. And in general, if you have questions, comment below on this video, send us messages on Instagram, whatever, Trio Fitness OCR. We'd love to answer questions. We're always happy to do so. We don't expect everyone to pay us for information. We really want to just help OCR athletes get better. And then if you decide that training is the right route for you to go, we would love to help you train. So head over to our training programs page. The link will be above this video. And we'll see you next time for episode 3 of Coach and Coffee.